Here's something almost nobody writing marketing content has ever had to think about. Whether a single paragraph pulled out of your page and dropped somewhere else still makes sense, because until now, it never had to. Your paragraphs always lived on your page, surrounded by your context. But AI systems don't read your page top to bottom. They cut it into pieces, a few hundred words at a time, and judge each piece on its own. So if a paragraph only makes sense because of the sentences around it, it fails the moment AI cuts it out. On its own, it says nothing the AI can use. So this lesson is a writing workshop of sorts. You'll learn how to write passages that survive being lifted into an AI answer. And we'll do it with a running example, a real chunk of mediocre marketing content for a fictional project management tool called Flowdesk. You're going to watch that copy get better, step by step, and by the end, you'll be able to point out exactly what changed and why it works. Let's get into it. Before the techniques, a word for the good writers watching, because you probably already have your doubts. The fear goes like this: AI systems want robotic content. The product name hammered into every sentence, everything bullet pointed. Following this advice means unlearning a craft that it took you years to master. Take that fear seriously, because it's half right. The web is filling up with exactly that kind of robotic, cookie-cutter content. But here's the thing. Consider what these systems actually reward, because it's not new at all. Complete paragraphs that stand on their own? That's the topic sentence, taught in every composition class for over a century. Conclusions first, details after? That's the inverted pyramid. Newspaper craft since the telegraph era, invented for a reader who might stop at any paragraph. Which is exactly what an AI system reading one passage at a time is. Claims with sources and dates? That's just basic reporting. So here's the honest way to think about it. AI models aren't new masters demanding new tricks. It's the oldest difficult audience there is. A hurried, doubting reader with no context. And one standard governs everything that follows. Every technique here has to pass one test. Would a good human editor approve of it, even if AI didn't exist? If the answer is no, then it doesn't belong in your content. The core skills come first, because everything else depends on it. 3 habits. Habit 1. Name your subject at the start of every section and paragraph. Here's a sentence that falls apart the moment you read it by itself. It also offers automated deployment rollbacks, which several reviewers called the best in its class. Pulled out of its page, that sentence is about nothing. What is it? The fix comes with one word. Deploybot also offers automated deployment rollbacks, which several reviewers call the best in its class. So name the product, the method, the company, in the first sentence of every section and every paragraph that starts a new idea. Inside a flowing passage, pronouns are fine. This is about openings, the parts of your content AI is most likely to use. Habit 2. Include the context inside the passage. Here's a claim that only makes sense if you read the sentence before it. At this stage, costs drop sharply, and most teams reassign the migration lead. What stage? On its own, the passage never says, so add the missing background in a few words. Once a migration reaches the validation stage, costs drop sharply, and most teams reassign the migration lead. 5 extra words. A reader who already knows skimmed right past them. A reader who doesn't, whether a person or an AI, needs them to follow along. Habit 3. 1 answer per passage. Don't ask a question at the end of one section and answer it under the next heading. The AI model is likely to split those into separate pieces, and then the question and its answers never end up together. And don't bury one clear answer in a paragraph that also makes 2 unrelated points. So before you write a section, list the questions it needs to answer. Give each question its own paragraph. And when you revise, if one paragraph is answering 2 different questions, split it into 2. There's a quality check for all of this, and it's worth making part of your team's workflow. Take one passage on its own and paste it into a blank document with nothing else around it. Now read it as if you've never seen the rest of the page. And ask 3 questions. What is this about? What does it claim? And what backs it up? If any answers require text that isn't in the passage isn't done. Let's go back to the Flowdesk example. Here's the pricing paragraph in its before state. When it comes to pricing, there's a lot to consider. It starts pretty affordable compared to some of the big names, and most teams find the value is there. There's a few tiers depending on what you need, and costs can change as you scale. Run the test. What is this about? Nothing here names Flowdesk. What does it claim? Notice there's no price, no tier, no comparison anywhere in it. Now here's the same paragraph rewritten, so each sentence stands on its own. Flowdesk pricing starts lower than most established project management tools. Flowdesk sells 3 tiers, and per-seat costs fall as team size grows. Teams choosing a tier should match features to their workflow, because Flowdesk's cheapest tier omits the approval routing that growing agencies typically need. Same voice, similar length, but every sentence now stands on its own. Now this paragraph is still weak. It doesn't have much real information in it yet. But that weakness was always there. The filler in the original was just hiding it. Now that the filler is gone, the gap is obvious, and the logical next step is to fill it with real detail, which is exactly what we're going to do. Now let's move from the single passage up the whole page, and there's a solid number behind the next part. It comes from analyst Kevin Indeg's study of over 1 million ChatGPT answers. About 44% of AI citations come from the first third of a page. So it's not enough just to have a good answer anywhere on the page. You have to put it near the top. The same answer buried at the bottom is far less likely to get cited. The most useful pattern to learn is what I call the direct answer block. It has 3 parts. A heading that says what the block contains. How much does Flowdesk cost? Or just Flowdesk pricing? Then, right away, a complete answer in 2 to 4 sentences. This is the part that gets cited, so it has to contain the actual number or the actual verdict, not a promise that the answer is coming further down. Then the details, evidence, exceptions, fine print, and descending order of importance. And the fake version of this is everywhere. A question as a heading, with no real answer underneath it. The difference between the real thing and the fake is simple. Does the answer the heading promised actually show up in the first sentences or not? 2 more habits, and these are about the page as a whole, not the individual passages. Put your best answers up top. List the questions the page exists to answer, and place the most valuable answer blocks in the opening third. It's the same idea newspapers have used for centuries, putting the most important thing first. And the data backs it up. The most prominent AI reading falls right where those old school writers always put the lead. And make your headings say what they mean. Compare, let's talk money, to pricing tiers and what they include. The first is personality with no information. The second is a clear label. The personality isn't banned. It moves into the paragraphs where it belongs. Headings are where the AI splits the page into pieces, and they tell what each piece is about, so they have to actually say something. One more thing to do at the page level, and it comes from the way AI models handle a big question. They break that big question into several smaller ones, search for each, and build the answer from the pieces they find. Which means people rarely find your page through its one big topic. They find it through the smaller questions it answers, one clear passage at a time. So before drafting, break your overall question apart the way the AI model will. The definition, what is Flowdesk? The comparisons, Flowdesk versus the obvious alternatives. The situations, Flowdesk for small agencies. The how-tos, and the doubts. When is Flowdesk the wrong choice? Then check your draft against that list. Which questions have complete passages of their own? Which are only half answered inside other paragraphs? Which are missing entirely? But one warning here, covering the questions doesn't mean answering every possible variation of them. A page that gives shallow half answers to multiple variations loses to a page that fully answers the 6 questions its readers actually have. Knowing which questions to skip is just as much as the skill as answering the ones you keep. Now the substance. The strongest proven citation factors are statistics, sources, and quotations. In Princeton's controlled experiments, adding them lifted visibility in AI answers by 28 to 40%. And those same 3 are the easiest to fake. So this part is about using them the right way. That means real numbers, real sources, and real quotes from real people. Not made up statistics and invented experts, dropped in just to look credible. Statistics first. Whenever you use an important number, put its source and its date right there in the same sentence. There's a simple 4-part habit worth practicing until it becomes second nature. State the claim, give the number, name the source, and say when it's from. Like this, AI referral traffic is still small, about 1% of web traffic in Conductor's 2026 benchmarks, but it's growing every month. Naming the source in a sentence is what turns an assertion into a checkable claim. and it's what an AI model can carry into an answer with the credit still attached. Quote real people. Passages quoting named experts get cited about 70% more often than the same passages without them. And two things matter here: who you quote and where you put the quote. Who you quote should be people with real, checkable standing. Your customers, working practitioners, your own specialist. Never invent an expert and give them a stock photo headshot. And this is more than just an ethical conundrum. AI models cross-check people against other sources on the web. So if your expert doesn't show up anywhere else online, the model can tell they're made up and it won't trust the quote. And put the quote where you're making a claim someone might push back on, or a judgment call that needs backing up. That's where an expert voice actually helps. Don't just add quotes for the sake of adding quotes. And write from what only you know: your usage data, your survey results, your benchmarks, your customers' actual experiences. Start every content plan with one question: what do we know that nobody else has published? Because a unique contribution is hard for AI models to leave out. And when it gets used, you have to be the credit. That's one practice your competitors can't copy by reading the same advice. Now let's go back to the flow desk paragraph. Last time, we fixed its structure so each sentence stood on its own, but it was still short on real detail. This time, watch what happens when we add actual evidence to it. Flowdesk starting plans run $29 per seat per month, below the category median of $47 in Capterra's 2026 pricing survey. Flowdesk sells 3 tiers, and per seat costs fall roughly 20% at the 50-seat threshold. The starter tier was perfect for us, up to about 15 people. Once we needed approval routing, moving up to the next tier was an easy call, says Diana Ruiz, operations lead at the design agency Brightline. Look at what happened. 2 vague claims became one source statistic and 1 quote from a real named person. And 1 unvariable claim, most teams find the value is there, got cut, as it deserved. Certain types of content get lifted into answers far more readily than prose. Self-contained pieces like definition, statistics, comparisons, they get lifted at 55 to 77% higher rates. So think of these formats as a menu. For each piece of content, you pick the format that fits it best. But one warning first, because people get this wrong constantly. This does not mean turning everything into bullet points. A format only helps when it actually fits what you're saying. The definition is for a term your audience might ask about directly. The term, its category, and what sets it apart, in one tight sentence, then expand on it. The comparison is a table with a recommendation underneath it. In the table, each row is one of the options, and each column is something buyers actually care about, like price or team size. Fill the cells with specific facts and numbers, not vague words like great or powerful. Then, under the table, write out your recommendations and explain the reasoning. Build both parts, because some AI platforms pull the table and others pull the written recommendation. And one hard rule on honesty: if your comparison includes competitors, it has to be accurate enough that the competitor could read it and not find anything to dispute. The list is only for things that are genuinely a sequence, a set, or a ranking. Steps in order, items in a group, options ranked best to worst. Anything that involves reasoning or judgment, that stays in paragraphs, where you can actually explain it. And what about the old debate over how long your content should be? The research settles it. No study has ever found that length by itself helps you get cited. What actually wins is coverage, or how completely you answer the questions your readers have. What can get you cited is standalone answer passages, not your total word count. In padding, that actively hurts because it waters your passages down. Now let's turn everything in this lesson into one routine you can repeat. And this matters because most of the time, you won't be writing a page from scratch. You'll be improving pages you already have. 7 steps in order. 1. Go through the page one passage at a time. For each one, ask if it would still make sense on its own, with nothing else around it. Mark every passage that wouldn't. That's your working list. 2. Fix the passages that can't stand alone. Add the subject's name to each one. Work the missing context into a clause. And split any paragraph that's answering 2 questions at once. 3. Move the answers up. The best answer blocks need to be in the opening third. 4. Back it up or cut it. Every important claim gets a stat, a source, or a quote from a real person written into the sentence, or it gets relabeled as an opinion, or it goes all together. 5. Fix the formats. Comparisons buried in paragraphs should become tables with a written recommendation. Real step-by-step procedures should become numbered lists. 6. Fix the headings. Make each one plainly say what its section is about, so the heading matches the content underneath it. 7. Do a final check. Read each important passage on its own again, and confirm it still makes sense with nothing around it. Publish when every answer holds up alone. Step 4 is the slowest, and that's worth noting in advance, because the requirement there is research, not editing. You're probably already wondering if an AI tool can just run this whole routine for you, and the honest answer is that it can do part of it, but not all of it. AI tools are great for the repetitive parts, reading through the page to find the weak passages, making the fix it so it stands alone repairs, relabeling a claim as an opinion, turning a paragraph into a table. A model can do all of that quickly, over and over again, but they're weak and even dangerous when the work calls for real facts and real quotes that only you can provide. Step 4 is where they hit a wall. A model can't give you a quote from your own customer, or a number from your own usage data, or an original finding only your company has. That information isn't out there for it to retrieve. And if you ask for it to fill that gap anyway, it will often just make something up that looks real. A made-up statistic and a made-up expert are two of the worst mistakes you can publish. The only way to prevent them is to check the source behind every fact a model gives you. So here's how to work with these tools. You bring the real facts, the real quotes, and your own findings. The AI tool helps you organize and format them, and you stay in charge of how it sounds and whether every fact is true. Think of the model as a tireless junior editor, but it's never the author. Now look back at what happened to Flowdesk. The passage went through everything in this lesson, repaired so it stands alone, moved under an honest heading near the top of its page, backed with a source figure and a quote from a real person. And here's the detail worth noticing. Put the before and after side by side, and the structure changed, the evidence changed, but the voice didn't. This whole approach controls where your facts go and what backs them up, but it never touches how you sound. One honest warning to close. The edit pass makes good content better, but it can't create good content out of nothing. Editing can organize what's on the page. It can't add facts that were never there. So if a page has nothing true, specific, or new to say, these 7 steps won't save it. The research is clear that AI models cite real facts and real information, and a page without any of that won't get cited no matter how well you organize it. If step 4 keeps churning up that gap on your site, you don't have an editing problem. You have a shortage of real, original things to say. And that's a bigger problem than writing can fix on its own. The way forward starts with the question this lesson keeps coming back to. What do you know that nobody else has published? Let's compress the lesson. AI models read your pages in pieces and judge each piece alone. So write every passage so it still makes sense on its own, with nothing around it. Name your subject at the start of every section. Include the context inside the passage. 1 answer per passage. Lead with the answer. Most AI citations come from the opening third of the page. Evidence means a source and a date in the sentence. Real people and real quotes. And facts and findings only you could publish. Formats follow the content's logic, never the other way around. And the 7-step edit pass turns all of this into a routine your team can run monthly. Nothing we covered today should compromise your writing craft. Every technique in this lesson is something a good editor would have demanded of you anyway. The AI era just made these old writing skills matter again. If this lesson was useful, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. I'm going to do more videos like this every few days. Thanks for watching.